First contact and confusion. High Admiral Zixtal stood motionless on the bridge of the Stellar Seeker, his crystalline form refracting the soft blue light of the ship's holographic displays. His 3 pairs of compound eyes studied the peculiar planet rotating slowly on the main screen, a world that, according to every sophisticated instrument aboard his vessel, should not harbor intelligent life. "Run the atmospheric analysis again," he commanded, his translator converting his harmonic speech into standard galactic common. "These readings cannot be correct." Chief Science Officer Nerith, a being composed of living plasma contained within an environmental suit, glided forward. "High Admiral, we've run the analysis 17 times. The results remain consistent. This planet's atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen levels that would dissolve most known life forms. The temperature variations are extreme enough to shatter molecular bonds. The gravity would crush most sentient species. And yet," she gestured to another display, showing clear evidence of civilization, cities, satellites, and primitive spacecraft. "And yet they persist," Zixtal finished. "Fascinating." The Stellar Seeker had been mapping this sector of space as part of the Galactic Federation's ongoing mission to catalog potentially habitable worlds. Earth, as the natives called it, had been flagged as a Class X planet, completely unsuitable for colonization, but the detection of artificial satellites had forced them to take a closer look. "We're receiving a transmission," announced Communications Officer Rilk, their tentacles wavering in surprise. "It's primitive by our standards, but clearly artificial. They're using something called radio waves." "Let's hear it," Zixtal ordered, preparing himself for what might be his species' first contact with these impossible beings. The bridge filled with a cheerful voice speaking in an unknown language, which their universal translator quickly decoded. "This is International Space Station to unknown vessel. We've detected your presence in high orbit. Welcome to Earth. We hope this message finds you well." The crew exchanged bewildered looks. The casual nature of the greeting suggested these beings had no idea they were living in conditions that would be considered apocalyptic by galactic standards. "Patch me through," Zixtal decided. "This is High Admiral Zixtal of the Galactic Federation vessel Stellar Seeker. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." "Fantastic," came the enthusiastic reply. "We'd love to arrange a meeting. Would you like to dock with our station, or should we send a shuttle up?" Nerith's plasma form flickered in alarm. "High Admiral, their station. It's maintaining an internal atmosphere similar to their planet's surface. We cannot possibly." "We appreciate the offer," Zixtal responded diplomatically, "but perhaps we could arrange an alternative meeting method. Our species requires different environmental conditions." "Oh, of course." The human replied with understanding. "We're still new to all this. What conditions would be comfortable for you? We can adjust our meeting facilities." Before Zixtal could respond, another alarm sounded. "High Admiral," Nerith reported, "I'm detecting a massive solar flare heading toward the planet. The radiation levels will be—" But instead of panic, they observed the humans calmly preparing for the event, activating primitive but effective shield systems around their station and vital infrastructure. "Sorry about that," the human voice returned. "We're just dealing with a bit of solar weather. Nothing unusual. Should clear up in a few hours. Would you like to reschedule?" Zixtal's crystalline form vibrated with amazement. These beings spoke of surviving a solar flare as casually as one might discuss a light rain. "Send all data to the Galactic Council," he ordered quietly. "We've discovered something unprecedented here, a species that doesn't just survive in Deathworld conditions, they thrive in them." As the crew compiled their findings, they continued observing the humans going about their daily lives, seemingly oblivious to the fact that they were performing impossible feats of survival every moment of their existence. Children played in what should be lethal amounts of solar radiation. Workers functioned in temperature ranges that would vaporize most known metals, and they did it all with a smile. "High Admiral," Nerith spoke softly, I believe we should classify these humans as an apex species, not because they're the most technologically advanced, but because they've evolved to survive conditions that would kill any other known sentient race. They're not just living on a death world, they're its masters. Zixtal nodded slowly, watching as the humans continued their casual conversation about meeting arrangements, completely unaware that they were rewriting every xenobiological principle in the galaxy simply by existing. Agreed, he said, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning of what we'll learn from these remarkable beings. The Galactic Conference Crisis. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across an artificial planetoid, its crystalline dome designed to accommodate thousands of species from across the known universe. Today it was filled to capacity, with representatives from over 300 civilizations, gathered for what many were calling the most significant meeting in recent galactic history. Supreme Counselor Venthar, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate environmental suit, called the session to order. The usual soft murmur of universal translators fell silent as all attention focused on the central platform. We are gathered, Venthar's melodious voice resonated, to address the discovery made by the Stellar Seeker expedition. High Admiral Zixtal, please present your findings. Zixtal stepped forward, his crystalline form now adorned with formal diplomatic markings. The massive holographic display behind him flickered to life, showing Earth in all its terrifying glory. Esteemed colleagues, he began, what you're seeing is not a mistake or a malfunction of our instruments. This is Earth, a planet that defies everything we thought we knew about habitable worlds. The display shifted to show human cities, vehicles, and daily life. With each new image, the assembled delegates grew more agitated. A representative from the methane-breathing Chlorian Federation actually passed out when shown humans casually swimming in liquid water. These humans, Zixtal continued, breathe corrosive oxygen, drink liquid water, and survive temperature variations that would shatter most of our environmental suits. But most remarkably, they consider these conditions normal. The assembly erupted in chaos. Impossible, shouted Ambassador Krill of the Silicon Collective, their crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. No sentient species could evolve in such conditions. If I may, a new voice cut through the commotion. All eyes turned to the entrance of the assembly hall. Walking confidently toward the central platform was Ambassador James Blackwood of Earth, accompanied by his small delegation. The assembled aliens watched in horror as the humans moved about without any form of environmental protection, their only concession to alien comfort being simple pressure suits to prevent their unsettling water-based biology from disturbing more sensitive species. Thank you for inviting us to this historic gathering, Blackwood said, smiling warmly. Several delegates nearest to him instinctively moved their hover platforms back. We understand our world might seem a bit extreme by your standards. Extreme, squeaked a representative from the gaseous harmonies, their cloud-like form condensing in anxiety. Your species sleeps through plasma storms. You eat substances that would melt our digestive chambers. You call stellar radiation pleasant weather. Blackwood chuckled, causing another wave of nervous movement among the delegates. Well, yes, I suppose we do. But we're quite harmless, I assure you. In fact, we're eager to learn from and trade with our galactic neighbors. Supreme Counselor Venthar raised an appendage for silence. Ambassador Partnership, Blackwood replied simply. A chance to learn from you, to explore the galaxy, to become part of something greater than ourselves. Yes, we come from a harsh world, but it has taught us the value of cooperation, innovation, and resilience. As if to punctuate his words, the assembly's warning systems suddenly blared. Solar flare detected, announced the automated system. All delegates please proceed to radiation shelters. The humans alone remained calm, with Patil actually pulling out a device to take readings of the event. Fascinating, he remarked. The magnetic field architecture of your artificial planetoid is quite different from Earth's. We might be able to help you improve its efficiency. Supreme Counselor Venthar observed the humans' casual reaction to what most species considered a dire emergency. Perhaps, the counselor reflected, these Deathworlders weren't just a curiosity or a potential threat. Perhaps they were exactly what the galaxy needed. Beings who had mastered survival in the universe's harshest conditions and were willing to share that knowledge. Ambassador Blackwood. Venthar announced as the flare warning subsided. I believe we have much to discuss about humanity's place in the galactic community. As the formal negotiations began, many delegates noticed something remarkable. They were becoming less afraid of the humans' terrifying biology and more intrigued by their potential. After all, in a dangerous galaxy, having allies who called a Deathworld home might not be such a bad thing. Threat from the void. The Kryvax Empire prided itself on military precision. Their invasion fleets had subjugated dozens of worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. But as Supreme Commander Vorthak stared at the tactical display, showing Earth's defense preparations, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Impossible, he hissed through his environmental suit's speakers. They're fighting in vacuum, without ships. The display showed human space forces responding to the Kryvax invasion fleet. But instead of conventional space battles, the humans had adapted their harsh environment survival skills into warfare in ways that defied military logic. Teams of humans in what appeared to be laughably simple pressure suits were using maneuvering thrusters to hop between asteroids, setting up defense networks in conditions that would kill most species instantly. They treated the void of space like a playground. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer reported, the humans are mining our sensor grid. Mining? In the middle of a battle. Vorthak's compound eyes blinked in confusion. No, sir, actually mining. They're using industrial equipment to harvest our sensor platforms for materials. They're building weapons from our own technology while we're still fighting them. The human response to the Kryvax invasion had been unlike anything in the Empire's military database. Instead of panic or formal military engagement, the humans treated it like an engineering challenge. On the planet's surface, things were even more baffling. The Kryvax's initial atmospheric bombardment, designed to make the air unbreathable for most species, had barely inconvenienced the humans. If anything, they seemed to be enjoying the apocalyptic conditions. Sir, another officer called out, we're detecting unusual activity in Sector 7. The humans are. They're surfing the plasma waves from our bombardment to reach our lower ships. They're using our own attack as a transport system. Vorthak watched in disbelief as human defenders used the superheated plasma trails from Kryvax weapons as makeshift launch ramps, riding the energy waves to reach and board his ships. His crews, confined to their environmental suits, were being overwhelmed by humans who moved through the superheated corridors like they were taking a pleasant stroll. Update from the ground invasion. His command console chimed. The human civilians are problematic. Define problematic, Vorthak demanded. They're treating our biological warfare agents as seasoning for their food, sir. The nerve toxins we deployed are being collected and used as industrial cleaners. A group of human children were seen using our plasma barriers as some sort of recreational field for a game they call extreme volleyball. The Supreme Commander slumped in his command chair. The Kryvax Empire had based their invasion strategy on standard planetary conquest protocols. But there was nothing standard about this world or its inhabitants. Sir, his tactical officer's voice rose in alarm. The humans are deploying something new. They're calling it Operation Spicy Time. The tactical display showed hundreds of small objects launching from Earth. As they approached the Kryvax fleet, sensors identify them as cooking implements. They're weaponizing their food preparation devices, the sensor officer reported incredulously. The particles they use for flavoring their sustenance are caustic enough to eat through our hull plating. Vorthak watched as clouds of what humans called ghost pepper extract breached his ship's environmental seals. The horrible truth dawned on him. Substances humans consumed for pleasure were more potent than most military-grade chemical weapons. Supreme Commander, His communication officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the human command. Audio only." "Put it through," Vorthak ordered, preparing himself for formal surrender terms. Instead, a cheerful voice filled the command deck. "Hey there, Admiral Sofia Rodriguez of Earth Defense Force. Just wanted to check if you folks would prefer to call it quits now. Our civilians are getting a bit too enthusiastic about repurposing your equipment for extreme sports, and honestly, we're having trouble stopping them. Did you know your plasma cannons make excellent coffee makers?" Before Vorthak could respond, another report came in. "Sir, the humans in Sector 4 have somehow converted our biological warfare production facility into something they call a hot sauce brewery. They're selling tickets to other species to watch the process." The supreme commander of the mighty Kryvax Empire looked at his tactical display, watching as his invasion force was being systematically disassembled by beings who treated lethal conditions as mild inconveniences. His ships were being turned into entertainment venues, his weapons repurposed for cooking, and his troops were being recorded for something called viral videos. "Open a channel," he ordered, his pride crumbling. "To Admiral Rodriguez. Tell her." He paused, watching as a group of human children used a disabled Kryvax walker as a jungle gym. "Tell her we accept their terms, whatever they are." The response came back immediately. "Wonderful. Would you like to stay for the victory barbecue? We're using your terraforming equipment as a grill. Turns out it makes amazing pulled pork." As the Kryvax fleet prepared for their first ever retreat, Vorthak made a mental note to update the Empire's military databases. Under Earth and humans, he wrote a simple warning: "Do not engage." They don't just survive the impossible, they weaponize it. The truth emerges. Professor Isabella Ramirez stood in the depths of the Mariana Trench, her specialized diving suit allowing her to walk casually at pressures that would crush most spacecraft. But it wasn't the pressure that held her attention. It was the massive structure before her, its metallic surface untouched by millions of years of oceanic forces. "Are you seeing this?" she broadcasted to both her human colleagues and the assembled Galactic Council observers watching via secure feed. "The architecture isn't natural. These are deliberate geometric patterns." The discovery had started 3 months ago when a routine deep-sea mining operation stumbled upon what appeared to be an artificial structure 11 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. What made it extraordinary wasn't just its location, but its age. Preliminary scans dated it to over 50 million years ago. "Professor," came the voice of Ktil, the Galactic Council's chief archaeologist, their gaseous form safely contained within their ship in orbit. "Our analysis confirms your findings. That facility bears markers of the precursor civilization." The precursors, a mysterious species that vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago, leaving behind only fragments of their advanced technology. But nothing like this had ever been found before. "Beginning entry sequence," Isabella announced, approaching what appeared to be an airlock. Despite its age, the structure responded to her presence, ancient machinery humming to life. "Impossible." Ktil gasped. "The facility. It's recognizing her genetic signature." The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a perfectly preserved interior. Isabella stepped inside, her suit's sensors recording everything. The walls were covered in flowing script, not just precursor language, but also what appeared to be early proto-human genetic sequences. "Professor," her AI assistant chimed in, "I'm detecting a data core. Still functional." Isabella approached the indicated panel, her hands trembling slightly despite the suit's stabilizers. "Beginning data retrieval." The facility's holographic systems activated, filling the chamber with light. A figure appeared, a precursor, their form both familiar and alien, composed of shifting energy patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. "Project Archive accessed." The hologram spoke, its words automatically translated. "Species Development Initiative. Earth Repository." The assembled scientists, both human and alien, watched in stunned silence as the truth of humanity's origins began to unfold. Earth was not chosen by chance, the hologram continued. It was engineered. We selected this world for its unique properties: extreme temperature variations, high gravity, corrosive atmosphere, intense radiation. The perfect crucible for creating the ultimate adaptive species. Images appeared showing Earth's history, not as scientists understood it, but as it had been designed. The precursors had transformed the planet into a testing ground, using its harsh conditions to guide evolution toward a specific goal. Our civilization faced extinction, the hologram explained, not from war or disaster, but from stagnation. We had mastered space travel, but we could not survive in the environments we found. We needed a species that could adapt to any condition, that could thrive where others perished. Isabella watched as the data showed countless genetic experiments, failed evolutionary branches, all leading toward one goal: humanity. Professor, Cattill's voice was filled with awe. This explains everything. Your species' impossible resilience, your ability to survive conditions that would kill most life forms. You were designed to be the ultimate survivors. The hologram continued its revelation. We seeded thousands of worlds, but only Earth produced the results we sought. In you, we created beings who could drink poison for pleasure, who could survive radiation that would sterilize planets, who could adapt to any environment within generations. But why? Isabella asked. Why create us and then disappear? Because we succeeded too well, the hologram replied. Our calculations showed that your potential would eventually exceed our own. You would become something beyond our understanding. And so we withdrew, leaving you to develop naturally, hoping that when you finally reached the stars, you would use your gifts wisely. Isabella stared at her hands, thinking of all the things humans had survived throughout their history. Ice ages, plagues, natural disasters. Things that would have wiped out most species had only made humanity stronger. There's more, her eye announced. The facility is transmitting a genetic key, a way to unlock dormant abilities within human DNA. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just accidentally tough. They were deliberately engineered to be the most adaptable species in the galaxy. Their Deathworld was actually an elaborate testing ground designed to push the boundaries of survival itself. Cattill, Isabella called to her alien colleague, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That your species' journey is just beginning." The alien archaeologist replied, "Indeed, the galaxy has been waiting for a species that could survive anything, that could help others survive. Perhaps this is why the precursors created you. Not just to explore the universe, but to protect it." As the facility continued sharing its secrets, Isabella realized that humanity's true purpose was finally clear. They weren't just survivors of a death world. They were its intended graduates, created to face challenges that no other species could survive. The question now was, what would they do with this knowledge? Guardians of the Galaxy. 10 years after the discovery in the Mariana Trench, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Commander Jasmine Patel stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Endurance, watching as her crew prepared for their most challenging mission yet. The ship itself was a testament to humanity's unique role in the galaxy, designed to operate in conditions that would destroy conventional vessels. "Status report," she called out, adjusting the minimal environmental controls that humans needed compared to their alien colleagues. "All systems optimal, Commander," responded Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov from his station. "The crew is ready for descent into the neutron star's corona." The mission was precisely the kind that only humans could undertake. A research station operated by the Luminous Collective had become trapped in the gravitational field of a neutron star. For any other species, it would be a tragic but unsalvageable situation. For the crew of the Endurance, it was Tuesday. "Message from Galactic Council. Communications Officer," we announced. "They're reminding us that this level of radiation would liquefy most known forms of matter." Jasmine smiled. "Send them our usual response." "Already done." Hold our beer, acknowledge. The Endurance dove into conditions that defied conventional physics. The ship's hull, reverse-engineered from precursor technology and enhanced with humanity's unique understanding of extreme environments, stood firm against forces that could shred battleships. Visual on the research station, Dmitri reported. Their environmental shields are failing. Estimate 12 minutes until total collapse. Jasmine activated the ship-wide comm. Rescue team, you're up. Remember, we're here to save lives and study impossible phenomena. Try not to take too many selfies this time. The rescue team, led by Chief Maria Santos, moved through the ship's airlocks wearing suits that looked impossibly light for the conditions they were about to face. Since unlocking their dormant genetic potential, humans had become even more resistant to extreme conditions, but they still enjoyed creating ever more efficient ways to survive them. You know, Maria's voice came through as her team approached the stricken station. The precursors would probably be proud. They created us to survive the impossible, and here we are, using that gift to save others. The rescue operation proceeded with the practiced efficiency that had made humans the galaxy's go-to species for impossible situations. While the rest of the galaxy watched in horror, the human team casually cut through the station's hull, evacuated its crew, and even saved some of their critical research data. All survivors secured, Maria reported. Also, we found some interesting crystals formed by the star's radiation. The science team is going to love these. Back on the bridge, Jasmine received an urgent communication from the Galactic Council. Commander, the Supreme Counselor's voice carried a note of amazement that, even after 10 years, hadn't diminished. We've received a distress call from the Voidborn Collective. They've detected an artificial anomaly in intergalactic space producing temperatures approaching absolute zero. Sounds refreshing, Jasmine responded. Like a nice winter day in Siberia. Plot a course. Why? We'll head there as soon as we finish here. The Endurance pulled away from the neutron star, its hull glowing with radiation levels that would sterilize most planets. In the medical bay, Dr. Rajkumar was already treating the rescued scientists while explaining to them that no, humans didn't actually need special protection from their little radiation bath. Commander, Wei called out, receiving multiple mission requests. The Silicon Hive needs help with a volcanic emergency. The Methane Kingdoms have detected strange energy patterns in their gas giant cores, and the Crystalline Confederation wants our assistance with something they're calling a dimensional fracture. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, thinking of how far humanity had come. From being seen as terrifying Deathworlders to becoming the galaxy's premier problem solvers. Their ability to survive anywhere, adapt to anything, and treat lethal conditions as mild inconveniences had transformed them from curiosities into indispensable allies. Log all requests, she ordered. We'll handle them in order of urgency, and send a message to Earth Command. We're going to need more ships. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and that's exactly why we're here. As the Endurance prepared for its next impossible mission, Jasmine reflected on the Precursor's legacy. They had created humanity to be the ultimate survivors, but humans had chosen to be more than that. They had become protectors, explorers, and teachers, showing other species how to push their own boundaries. New message from the rescued scientists, Wei announced, trying to hide a smile. They want to know if we're really drinking something called hot sauce while exposed to lethal radiation levels. Tell them it helps keep us warm, Jasmine replied with a grin. And remind them that tomorrow's game night, we're teaching them how to play poker in zero gravity while passing through a quantum filament. The galaxy had indeed changed. Humanity had found its place not just as survivors of a death world, but as guardians of all worlds. And somewhere, perhaps, the precursors were watching their creation with pride, as humans turned the very extremes that should have killed them into their greatest strengths. The impossible had become routine, the lethal had become entertaining, and humanity's story was still just beginning. After all, there were always new challenges to face, new boundaries to push, and new ways to show the galaxy that with enough determination, adaptability, and a bit of crazy human ingenuity. Nothing was truly impossible. Next stop, Jasmine announced as the Endurance entered faster-than-light travel. The impossible.